Well, I wish I could say that there were things that were common to all of the top states, but they vary. Massachusetts generally comes top of the list, and that's because of very good human skills, very high educational levels, for example, very high scores on technology. On the other hand, Massachusetts doesn't do so well on taxation and the tax burden. So other states do well because they have low taxes, Utah, North Dakota, but may not do so well on the human capital side. So there are different paths to the top. It does relatively well on infrastructure. For example, commuting to work takes very little time here compared to New York or Chicago. It does quite well on human capital. The educational level in the state is good. It does well on the environment. The air is relatively clean, for example. So it does fairly well on those. It doesn't do really badly on anything, and it doesn't do really well on anything. It just is pretty solid on most of our indicators. Well, there are a few areas where Nebraska doesn't look quite so good. One that stands out is that Nebraska has a relatively high number of government employees per 1,000 residents. So there's a large government presence here. It doesn't do terribly well on the tax front, and it doesn't do so well on the openness front. This is a state that perhaps because it's so far away from the big cities on the coasts, doesn't have very many immigrants, and we see that as a drawback because immigrant groups tend to provide a dynamism that otherwise sometimes is difficult to find. So I think some work could be done there. It doesn't do a great job on the health front. And on technology, it's a bit of a laggard. Not too bad, but it's certainly not in the front ranks. It's a perennial problem. We all say less regulation, simplify this, simplify that, but when it comes down to it and we look at each regulation, oh, we can't do that, and we can't change something else. So I think it's much harder to do in practice, and I think it's a mindset issue. Once we get into the mindset of saying, must we have these regulations? Need it be this intrusive? Then we begin to get into what can we simplify? But I'm not sure that we've achieved that mindset yet. And so this regulate, protect ethos has maybe become too deeply embedded. And we worry so much about our children. We worry so much about safety on the roads. We worry to the extent that now the government nannies us. And that takes a bit away from our individual responsibilities. We need to find the right balance, and I'm wondering if we aren't pushing too much towards the nannying state and away from the individual responsibility bit. But we're never going to go back to a world where anything goes. And in that case, we will always have regulations that someone somewhere finds intrusive. It's the way it is. C'est la vie.